Welcome back to This is Board Game Officer. Today we're going to go over the 10 best house rules for Tiny Epic Dungeons to make it a little bit easier. A lot of people talk about how difficult it is, so these are my favorite ways to kind of alter that difficulty, and there's a lot of variability here. But let's go ahead and jump into number one. I actually stole it from, well, not stole it, but it came from BGG by JD GMD. This is from him. So one of the things that he came up with is called Force of Will tokens, which you could use anything in here. You know, you could use a penny. You could do it. You could use these if you haven't used all of the disarm tokens yet. But basically, each hero gets one of these Force of Will tokens, and these tokens do one of two things, and you basically discard it to use one of these abilities, right? The first one is called Tough of Nails. Whenever a hero is going to lose his last health, he can actually discard the token to gain back up to 1 HP. Meaning you can continue on with everything you're doing, acting like you never got hit 0, you just went down to 1 health, keep going just as normal. Or at the end of your turn, let's say after your turn, the enemies are going to activate and that's going to screw up your whole game. You could discard this and therefore not let that torch shock move down. I think this is probably one of the smallest adaptations that can help, but it doesn't feel like it's too overpowering because you only can do it once. Each character has one ability to do it once, and so I feel like I really like this. It's very innovative and really cool, so that's why I wanted to start off with this. The next one here is another little free action that every character has. This is called, he calls it First Aid. It's going to be a free action that every character has, and you can spend 3 focus, and you can heal one other hero within your tile 1 HP. Right, so this just kind of gives you a little bit more way to alter the health of all your characters. The next one he calls Looty Goblin. I only have the names for the one that he did, so I don't have names for all of these, but this one he calls the Looty Goblin. Is after you kill any goblin, doesn't matter which one, you got to roll a die, and if it gets a 6, that was actually pretty good, that was my first try. If you get a 6, you get to draw another loot and or spell, regardless of what he's already given you. Or if you want to increase the easiness there a little bit as well, make it a 5 or a 6. That you just roll once after you don't alter it. You can't change it at all. You just roll it to see if you get an extra loot and or spell. Now, these are other ones that I kind of found within BGG throughout. Another one which is very similar to that is if you die, every time you die, you could roll a die. And if you get that 6 again, you go back up to 1 HP. So it's not as powerful as being able to discard something, but it always gives you the chance to not be knocked down. Or the next one, if you're having problems with running out of time, instead of moving the track up 6 after defeating a minion, you can move it up 8 instead, right? That gives you just a little bit more time with that. The next one here is actually kind of cool. So what you could do is, however many characters you're playing with, you get to start with that many flipped over. So if we're playing with 2 characters here, we could start with 2 of these flipped over. If there was a goblin, you don't spell the goblin, you just get a free flip over, meaning you get to start with more rooms revealed. You basically decreases that time that you have to take just to explore, because you've already opened up 2 rooms for free. Also, one thing that's really cool about Grokul is if you zoom in here really close, like really close, you can see it actually says, subscribe to Board Game Officer. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you like this stuff. Anyways, there's another one here, starting with more loot, there's actually 2 versions of this. Each character gets to draw 2 loot, and then keep one of them. Or you can say, okay, we're playing with 2 players here. Let's draw the number of players plus 2. So with this, we'll draw 4. Then we'll reveal all of them, and we each get to pick one of them. And then the rest go to the discard pile. That does 2 things. 1, you each get to start with 1 item. And 2, you actually get to start with some in the discard pile. So if you actually wanted 2 of those things, you can easily get that later on, or sooner than later. So you kind of getting through this deck a lot quicker. Now, to go along with that, this is especially important if you're playing with the Stories expansion here, because it adds so much more loot. So this one here, if you take out 1 to 2 of these sets here, right? So let's say you're playing as Clotho and Grokul, right? So neither one of you care about agility. So that means you would go through and take out these agility ones because no one's going to use it, so you take out either one of them or both of them. That way that kind of tailors the deck a little bit to your characters, so you're not just fishing through crap the whole time. The next one here is pretty darn simple. If you're playing 2 players, start up at 3 and or 4. If you're playing 3 players, start up at 4, right? Pretty simple, just start up higher on the torch track. If you're playing with 4, people usually say it's easier at 4, so I don't know if that's needed. But if you're playing 4, that one doesn't really work. But if you really wanted to, you could start one off of it so the next one goes down on top of it after the very first turn. Now this next one's probably one of the most popular ones that I've seen, is instead of moving the torch track down after every single character, just move it down after all characters have gone. So Graku will go, Clotho will go, then this will go down. Graku, Clotho, then this goes down. That is going to greatly increase the time that you have and make sure that you guys can actually do something before another goblin spawns or before a goblin attacks or a minion actually activates. So that one can be really good if you're just struggling with time. So this last one here now, actually I got from my friend Eric. Shout out to you, Eric. This is what he actually came up with, and I actually really like it. It makes it much simpler. He plays it with his kids, so his kids can kind of play along and have fun with it. And he actually does 2 things put together. One thing he does is all of these goblins spawning, he ignores. So they will still activate, but he will ignore any goblin spawn on either side of the initiative track or the torch track. Now, the problem with that is if you're spawning less goblins, that means you're getting less loot as well. And so that increases the difficulty actually, because then you're not getting loot and you're not being able to get it as powerful. Since you're not spawning as many goblins, what he does is when you draw loot, is you can actually just give it to either player. So even if Graku is the one who killed the goblin, if Clotho wants this Violet Cape, she can take and equip that immediately on. That way, you don't have to spend a whole nother killing a goblin to take it out from the discard pile because not as many goblins are spawning. So that kind of helps level it out there and really keep that goblin level down, so that's not a worry that you don't have to stay on top of the goblins near as much. All right, there you have 10 plus a little bit of house rules to kind of make it a little bit easier. Let me know what house rules you have done for this or any other thoughts that you have on this game. Go ahead and put it down in the comments below, and I will see you later.